Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel, and in today's video we're gonna steer away from true crime and do something a little less depressing but equally creepy in conspiracy theories. Now, I tried to stay away from the super popular ones just because, there's a lot of coverage on those ones and they're pretty beaten to death on the internet at this point. I tried to go with some more niche ones, but, of course these are still probably pretty well known, so you may know a few, but I can almost guarantee you probably won't know all of them unless you're a major conspiracy nut. But if I didn't cover any that you find super interesting, please comment them down below. I'm always interested to hear some other conspiracy theories, as they can always be pretty cool to just kind of listen to. Typical YouTuber schlock, by the way. I am just going to ask you guys if you could like and subscribe if you enjoy any of my content, as it goes a long way in helping the channel and helping me grow, and it'd just be really cool. But without any further ado, let's get into some of the conspiracies. The dead internet theory puts forth the idea that AI-generated content and accounts make for the majority of web presence. People who believe in this theory point out that while not necessarily being every account that you may interact with or that is popular, there is more AI on social media sites than actual people. Things like Twitter, which has had a massive surge of bots since Elon Musk took over, and Facebook are sites that people point to prove the dead internet theory, with posts that receive hundreds of thousands of likes being filled with lifeless comments and next to no humanity outside of a deceiving profile picture. Another thing that people who kind of believe in the dead internet theory point to is these nonsensical posts on something like, let's say, Facebook, where these seemingly botted accounts will post something like a combination of Jesus and a crustacean, a kind of almost trend, if you will, that has garnered a ton of likes and a ton of posts on Facebook, once again, that while not 100% solid evidence of the dead internet theory, it does kind of back it, as most of the time when you see it, the accounts are most likely botted, with the comments, like already kind of talked about, being pretty lifeless. The concept of bot accounts aren't some out-of-this-world idea either, as it has been a well-known fact that they have existed and are utilized to boost viewership and interaction for smaller accounts. The reason the dead internet theory is so scary is because of its effects. See, if this does end up being true, not only do AI accounts have the ability to create content, but they can also like other posts, creating almost a circle or a chain of events where AI will post something and more AI will like it, leading to real people thinking, well, this is popular, this must be true. And what I mean by that is people worry that this AI could begin to spread propaganda and unchecked political statements that people who are actually on Facebook or Twitter or another social site will see and believe because they just see the interaction. It gets especially scary when you consider how many people have gone from getting information from physical media or TV to social media. And even in best case scenario, if it is true that the dead internet theory is real, best case scenario, it's not bots spreading false information, but it's more just something still not right or anything, but it's still like small accounts boosting their channels. It's still kind of scary to think about that when you go online, a place that was meant to connect the world, that most of it is just bots or AI. That is a very eerie thought and very freaky. Many scientists have noted how even though there is an abundant amount of ingredients and prerequisites available in the universe for organisms to grow, there is no other forms of life in this universe, at least that we know of. This spurred Aditya Chopra and Charles Lineweaver to develop the Gaian bottleneck theory in 2016. The theory suggests that if life emerges on a planet, it only rarely evolves quickly enough to regulate greenhouse gases and albedo, thereby maintaining surface temperatures compatible with liquid water. And habitability. Oh my, I did that take 10 times and always messed up the habitability part and said it wrong, and I was actually chopping it up there to make a funny little bit, and of course the one time I wanted to say it wrong, I got it right, so I guess kind of a blooper. This suggests extinction is the cosmic default for most life. It also suggests rocky planets need to be inhabited to remain habitable. This theory attempts to explain the lack of extraterrestrial life by coming to the chilling conclusion that extinction is the default for life. Many people are also creeped out by this theory because it solidifies the fear that humanity is alone in the universe. Now, this next one that we're going to cover is the Fermi paradox, and it was proposed by Enrico Fermi. And This one is super interesting to me, and I just want to start off by saying it is not a theory in itself, it is a question, but a lot of people have developed theories to answer his question, and the theories people developed in response to the Fermi paradox are so creepy, so chilling, and really intriguing too, that it just makes this one super cool to me. The discussion of alien life is basically beaten to death at this point. Hell, we just covered the Gaian bottleneck theory, and this discussion was actually the catalyst for the Fermi paradox, as during lunch with colleagues, Enrico Fermi discussed the idea of alien life, or I guess more accurately, it started with interstellar travel. However, once shifted to alien life, Fermi asked a simple question that just silenced his coworkers. Where is everybody? This is the Fermi paradox, the contradiction between the seemingly high likelihood for extraterrestrial life and lack of evidence for its existence, or, in the famous words of Enrico Fermi, where is everybody? The Fermi paradox itself is, of course, interesting, but it's the answers that have been proposed that are more exciting in response to the question. Now, one of the answers that people have suggested or pointing to actually used the Gaian bottleneck theory and suggested that there was alien life or some other form of life that existed, but since then has died out due to the reasons previously mentioned in the Gaian bottleneck theory. It just couldn't keep up with protecting its planet against greenhouse gases, and eventually became inhabitable. So they all died out. But some people like to add a little twist on the end where they say that everyone else died out like years or like billions of years ago and we're all that's left. And some people say that maybe we're the start of life in the universe. Now, either way, it is, of course, just like no matter which way you put it, it is a big stretch. You can't know for sure. Some people say that aliens do exist and they are very smart and they have developed insane technology, but because of the way they have observed humanity, they have no urgency to make contact with us as we are less developed. But the more important point is how violent we are. We are constantly at war, and anytime a supposed alien ship has, visited Earth, it's been met with, convoys of tanks and armies approaching it. So another theory is just aliens do not want to come here because of how violent we are. And the most popular theory that goes along with the Fermi paradox is the dark forest theory. The dark forest theory states, any species capable of interstellar travel is capable of planetary obliteration, so it's safest to just eliminate any species that could develop the technology before they do. And then another more minor, theory is just that there are aliens out there, but they're being quiet, and humanity is the only one being loud and dumb, and the reason why they're being quiet is there's some big, scary alien race out there. Now, I think the Dark Forest one is by far the more interesting one, just it feels more realistic, but the other one where it's like humanity's being loud and there's some big race out there that should keep us quiet is honestly pretty chilling to think about, as much as I don't believe it. Now, to kind of kill all the fun and creepiness from those theories, there is actually a real reason, or a more logical reason, I guess, as to why aliens haven't contacted us, and it's because space is big.
No.
And
Reddit
yes,
user
aliens for sure exist, but there's a better
well.
reason they're not contacting us, and the answer is extremely simple. Space is big. No, you don't understand. Space is huge. Even if we had infinite-powered lasers pointed directly to the other alien civilizations and we had been transmitting them since radio was invented in 1901, our lasers would only be reaching 0.00015% of the Milky Way. Nobody outside of 120 light years away could detect us, simply because no light we've generated could reach them by now. When they look at Earth, they'd see us 120 years ago, so yeah, 0.00015% is absolutely tiny. Not even mentioning the universe, simply put, we haven't been around long enough for the signals we create to reach anybody. Hell, we've probably only had the technology to actually generate a strong enough signal to be detected on a planet in a solar system for, maybe 3 to 5 decades. Now, this is exactly why I like the Fermi paradox so much, as usually the logical, realistic reason kind of kills all suspense and kind of eeriness about something, but the logical reason as to why we haven't seen aliens is almost as scary, if not more scary, than the theories. Like, of course, aliens coming to destroy us, or, there being a big alien race out there is creepy, but The idea we haven't seen aliens just because the universe is that big, like just incomprehensibly big, is horrifying. There's just something so horrifying about the fact that we haven't seen aliens because the universe is so massive. Like, we are quite literally the smallest little dot, like, just in existence. It's so freaky. And before I really start questioning life, I'm just gonna go to the Boeing is killing whistleblowers theory. Is pretty self-explanatory, but it goes that after former employees spoke out against Boeing in lawsuits due to them designing planes poorly and ignoring safety regulations, Boeing hired people to kill them. Pretty self-explanatory. And while seemingly pretty convincing at first for this one, as it almost lines up perfectly, like, just as more planes are crashing, Boeing's whistleblowers start to die. It gets foiled pretty easily because two of the whistleblowers had already won the cases that they were on 5 years prior to their deaths, with their deaths not even being under crazy circumstances. From the three I was able to find, one of them died because he was immune compromised and he died of MRSA. One just had really bad mental health problems and committed you know what, which horrible, that's super sad. And the third just died of cancer. Well, like, none of these are too crazy. These just seem like unfortunate deaths as opposed to some big conspiracy. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but this one just doesn't seem too likely to me, as much as I don't want to say I'd want it to be true because I don't want people to just, die for the sake of a creepy conspiracy. But as interesting as it would be, it just doesn't really line up. Like, all the deaths were after the cases, which would leave no incentive for Boeing, and all the deaths were pretty regular, I'd say. Like, obviously, committing you know what and dying of cancer isn't some everyday occurrence, but it also is, like, compared to a company hiring people to kill former employees, it is. This theory is simply that school systems suck because it was made to fail kids and force them off to work. This is crazy, right? Of course school wouldn't do that. They're there to help you. And while seemingly absurd at first, Reddit user Irregular Logic explains it by saying, actually, the school system is quite literally based on a German/Prussian educational theory to create obedient humans that will work in factories. Hence the name kindergarten for the start of the program. The system emphasizes sitting at your station, desk, quietly and waiting for work to be assigned to you. You complete the task and are told you did good, and you wait for the next task without talking to your neighbor or leaving your station. There's a bell, just like in a factory, that rings to tell you when your break is, and there's designated eating and playing areas that you all shuffle off to. The day is as close as they can get to a typical 8-hour shift as well. By making this seem normal, you indoctrinate children into a system that they don't understand and aren't yet in a mental state to defend themselves against. Watch the bell ring at the end of recess, the children will drop their toys and run like dogs back to their classrooms. This one I partially believe, as I don't really put it past, like, old-timey people to be super evil. Like, if you look at history, unfortunately, a lot of them were extremely evil. And the idea that you would force a lot of people into factories where they could work isn't really insane, especially during the time that this kind of system was created, as that was kind of the time you needed people in factories. It wasn't as, I guess, encouraged to go do something like the arts or play sports or something like that. So this one doesn't seem crazy to me. Now, I think a lot of people were kind of implying it was still kind of like the school system still kind of made to do that. And being someone who works in the school system, I disagree with that. See, I see a lot of people say that, school doesn't properly test kids, and I 100% agree with that. I don't think that there's this one way to test every single kid. It's just not really feasible. Everyone has their own strengths and weaknesses, but the thing is, the school system and just schools and teachers in general are so underfunded that I don't think they have the resources or time to make a more effective way of testing kids and schooling them, unfortunately. And I just, from the stuff I see whenever I go work at a school, a lot of the people are taking extra time out of their day to teach the kids and help them work. Now, of course, I do think there are the occasional bad teachers, but I honestly think that at least the people who are in the schools working with the kids, they put in a lot of work to try and make the system a little more feasible for some of the kids. That was the last one that I could find enough information on to make it a segment of its own, so now we'll move on to a quick fire round of conspiracy theories. If you are wondering why this is a different angle, I forgot to do this shot upon the original recording session. Humans are nothing more than a virus that are infecting the Earth, and soon enough, the Earth will get a fever to rid itself of the virus. Giving yourself head feels less like getting a blowjob and more like giving one. The US government is lacing fentanyl on most drugs to kill poor drug users. The government knows when Yellowstone will erupt, but they just aren't telling anyone because the efforts to displace 100 million people would be far more than they could manage, and even then there would still be mass casualties, so they're just praying for the best. Ouija boards actually work, and this one is super creepy to me because you just don't know. But I don't think it does, but you'll never catch me messing around with a Ouija board. I don't mess around with that stuff. Never did the Bloody Mary thing. Never will. And speaking of Bloody Mary, if you say her name in the mirror 3 times while the lights are off, a lady with claws will appear behind you and start jerking you off. Microplastics are making us stupider and destroying our memories. The cost of living is so high because the government or some other entity has purposely made it that way so that they create an almost slave class that has to work until they die. Fun fact, that is actually not a theory, it's called trickle-down economics, and it's sadly a real thing. Have a great day, and see you guys in the next one. Have fun with that information.